Hello and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lane Smith. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services here at Samford. And I'm going to take a few minutes to walk us through the financial aspects of being a Samford student, where your students and you all can receive the information that you need while your student is preparing to arrive in the fall, but also once they have arrived and all throughout their career at Samford. It's the Samford One Stop. And so I want to introduce you to the One Stop, who those people are, what they do, and how they can assist you both now and into the future. So with that, let's get started, and we'll talk just briefly about what we're going to cover. So we're going to cover who is the Samford One Stop. I'm going to tell you who the people are there. We're going to walk through what those folks actually do, the different services that they offer. We'll also look at how we can help you now and in the future, like I've already said, and then also some strategies during the summer as you begin to pull together your plan as to how you're going to make Samford affordable and how you're going to get the bill paid as we get into the fall. I'll give you a few tips and some strategies on how to make that happen. All right, so with that, let's start with who's my point of contact in the Samford One Stop. So the first person that you need to know about is Patty Rourke. She is one of my assistant directors in Student Financial Services, and her main responsibility is making sure that you and your students are taken care of in the Samford One Stop. So she manages the day-to-day of all that goes on, all the emails, all the phone calls, all the contacts, walk-ups that happen in the One Stop. That runs through her area. And she is also currently responsible for a group of students, our undergrad students, whose last names begin with M through S. And so you'll see that all of our advisors and all of our people in the One Stop have a group of students they're responsible for. And Patty's been in the One Stop ever since we created it a couple years ago, and then many years prior to that working in financial aid. And she's always worked with a group of students much like this one here. And when she was promoted a few months ago, we just hadn't had a chance to fill her vacant spot. So we may have, by the time you guys get here to campus, we may have somebody new in the role of the advisor for the M through S group. But currently, Patty's going to be your go-to person if your last name begins with M through S. Teresa Canute is probably our longest serving member in the One Stop. She's been at Samford for over 20 years. She's worked in the Bursar's office previously. She's worked in financial aid previously, and now she's serving in the One Stop. And she helps our students whose last names begin with A through D. And in particular, one of her great joys is that she gets to work with our student athletes who are on scholarship at Samford. So if you're a scholarship athlete, regardless of what your last name begins with, Teresa's going to be your go-to person in the One Stop. Douglas Johnson, he handles our students whose last names begin with E through L. One neat fact about Douglas is that he loves to speak Spanish. He is extremely fluent in Spanish, and so any of our students who use Spanish as their primary language, we encourage you to reach out to Douglas, or if you as a parent or as a family member, if you're most comfortable speaking Spanish, we encourage you to reach out to Douglas. No matter what your last name begins with, Douglas would love the opportunity to help you feel at ease by speaking a native tongue and just help you with any questions that you have, no matter where you fall in our alphabet. But primarily his group is E through L. And then David Dockery, he handles our students at the very tail end of the alphabet. He has T through Z. And much like Teresa, he has a specified group as well. His group is any students who are receiving any kind of VA or military benefit. So he's our certifying official here on campus. So again, much like Teresa, regardless of where you fall in the alphabet, if you have VA benefits, David's going to be the person that you want to speak with, and let him help you walk through the process of filing all the paperwork that's needed in order to make sure that your VA benefits get here and get here on time. And then if your last name is T through Z, then he's also your go-to person. And then finally, Kim Watley is our administrative assistant, and she's really right there next to Patty on a daily basis, making sure that all incoming information, both emails, phone calls, forms that are coming in, she's there to make sure that all that's running smoothly and that you get connected with the right people, whether it's in the One Stop or maybe someplace else across campus. Kim's going to be your person that can help you get connected and make sure that you get your answers, get your questions answered by the folks that need to be involved there. So those are your points of contact. You can see their email addresses here on the screen. We also have just a general Samford email address, or one-stop email address. It's onestop@samford.edu. I encourage you to use that all through the summer, as our folks, even though we're not here on campus now, they're going to go on vacation from time to time throughout the summer, and really even throughout the academic year. If your email goes to that onestop@samford.edu email address, it's going to get routed to the right person, even when they're on vacation. So if someone we know is going to be on vacation for a week, we're going to route your email to someone who is in the office and who can take care of you right then and there. So be sure to use that. And as you develop a relationship with those advisors, then feel free to use those other email addresses that were on the previous slide. Now, we're located in Ingalls Hall. We're not there today, and we're not there probably for much of the summer, but by the time you guys get back to us in the fall, we plan to be back in the office. And Ingalls Hall is the same building where admissions is located. So if you've been to admissions, you come in the front door. Before you go up that big staircase that goes to the second floor, if you just peek around to the side there to the left or to the right, and go about 3 steps down, you'll be right there at the front door of the One Stop, and that's where we're located. And so all those folks that I mentioned on the previous slide, they should be there ready and able to assist you as you walk in for any kind of face-to-face visit. You can also feel free to give us a phone call. Our phone number is listed there along with that email address, and as well our web address, where you can find all the information related to anything we're going to talk about today. And then also we can be found online. We've got our old school Instagram logo there, along with Twitter and Facebook, and we post all of our important dates there, as well as any kind of scholarship opportunities that we become aware of. So as we get contacted from outside groups about different scholarship programs, we will post those announcements there. So we encourage you to friend us, bookmark those, whatever the case might be, to make sure that as we put information out, that you can find that information easily on those different social media channels. All right, so let's talk about what we actually do, okay? And so our tagline there of helping you take care of the business of being a Samford student is really what our group is all about. And so one of the first things that we work with in the One Stop is with student accounts. So as it relates to charges, account statements, payments, payment plans, 529 payments, third-party payers, all those different things, those things run through the One Stop. And so really the One Stop is the front face of our student accounts office. Likewise, it's the front face for our financial aid office as well. But those folks there, the people we mentioned just previously, are all well-versed and trained to be able to answer your questions to anything related to those items. And we're going to talk about a few of those in a little more detail here in just a minute. They also are responsible for creating student IDs. So a number of your students have been submitting ID pictures over the last several weeks. Those have been going through an approval process. And in fact, today we have folks on campus, the day that we're recording this, those folks are actually on campus printing IDs. And those will be sent into the mail to your students here before too long. When you get on campus, if you've lost your ID or if it's damaged, you just bring that to us in the One Stop, and we'll work with getting a new picture made and getting that ID remade for you. Also, I mentioned financial aid, so anything related to scholarships, grants, work study, student loans, refunds of student aid when you've gotten more aid than what your charges are and you get a refund. Again, all that stuff runs through the Samford One Stop, and the folks there can answer any questions that you have related to any of those things, whether it be Samford scholarships, outside scholarships, federal loans, federal Pell Grant, any of those things. All that rolls through the Samford One Stop. We also will be distributing parking decals in the fall. So there'll be stations kind of around campus early on in the fall for parking decal distribution. But after the first week or so, those then get funneled back to the One Stop. And so if you don't get your parking ID in the first few days on campus, then you'll come to the Samford One Stop and get that decal there. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, David Dockery, he is our certifying official for all VA items. We handle all Veterans Affairs issues in the One Stop as well. All right, so how can we help you? Well, first and foremost, we want to talk about FERPA. It's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1975. I think most of us understand what HIPAA is and how it relates to our healthcare records. Well, there's a similar law protection for our students and their educational information. And so every student is protected by FERPA who is of age. And so that's regardless of who is paying their bills. And what that does is that it protects your students' information from being released to anybody, even if you're the one paying the bill. And so your students will be, your students will be walked through a process that will allow them to sign a waiver and list on that waiver as to who we can actually speak with. And so we want to make sure that as you learn about this, you make sure that your student knows about the FERPA waiver, and if you need to be included on that FERPA waiver, we want to make sure that they get you included on that waiver. And in doing so, that allows us to speak with you. Now, the way that works is all during the summer, before your student sits in a class, we have plenty of freedom to speak with you. But once your student becomes a matriculated student, that means they've sat in class. So on that first Monday, and that was at August 24th, I believe, that first Monday of class, once that day gets here, it's almost as if a curtain comes down and we're not allowed to speak to anybody about your student's record unless those people are named on the waiver. And so we want to make sure that you guys get placed on that waiver over the course of the summer. So be on the lookout for information about that. You can also talk with the One Stop about that, and we can direct your student as to how to make sure they get that done. But be aware of that. Now, another item that gets sometimes confused with FERPA is authorized users. Well, authorized users has really nothing to do with FERPA. What that is that we have a financial portal, and I'm going to give you a link here in just a minute for that financial portal. But your student can go into this financial portal and see their charges. They can see their account statement. They can see what's been paid to their account. They can sign up for a payment plan. They can make deposits for overseas trips for study abroad. They can do a lot of things in the financial portal, but you can't unless your student has set you up as an authorized user. So that's a secondary process beyond FERPA. And so we'll be sending out information over the course of the summer from the One Stop to your student, showing them how they can add you as an authorized user. We want to make sure that you get added as an authorized user, because the best part about that for you is that you then can access their financial information 24 hours a day, and you'll be included in any account statements that are sent out on a monthly basis. So you want to make sure that in order to know what the bill is, to know when the bill is due, that you're signed up as an authorized user. So again, those are two different things, and we'll make sure that we get that clear for you and that your student has all the information necessary to make sure that they have you guys set up on both items there. So the Samford Financial Portal that I mentioned, you can see the web address there. It's just samford.edu/go/ebill. And your Samford student has access to it with their Samford ID and their Samford password. And again, once they get in, it is just a couple of clicks, and all they got to do is type in your email address, and then you can be added as an authorized user. But again, we'll send out information about that before too long. Payment plans. So that's one of the questions that a lot of our families have at this time of the year is, how do we get involved in a payment plan? Well, Samford has two payment plans that are available in the fall. There's a 4 installment plan and a 5 installment plan. So beginning around July 15th, that's a date you want to write down. Around July 15th, we will open up the payment plans, and your student will have an opportunity to enroll in one of those. Or if you're an authorized user, you'll have the opportunity to enroll your student. And that's what we recommend. We recommend that the parent enroll the student as once they've been made an authorized user, that they enroll them in the payment plan. That way, the owner of the payment plan is the one who does the enrolling, and then the owner gets all the notifications about the payment plans. And so the way they work is we take your net cost, or first we'll take your gross cost, your tuition, your fees, your room and board, and any other charges that you have, and we apply the aid that you have for the fall against that gross amount, and then we get a net amount. And then that net amount can then be broken up into either 4 installments or 5 installments. The first installment for each of those plans is the down payment. So if you log on July 15th and you see that your student has tuition, they've got fees, room, board, and then you see that they've got their scholarship, they've got a grant that's reducing that. Maybe they've taken out a student loan, maybe you've taken out a parent loan, whatever the case might be. You should have a net amount at that point, and then we'll break that up over 4 or 5 installments. To enroll in the plan, is just a $75 enrollment fee, and that is charged each time you enroll in the plan. So if you enroll in the fall, it'll be $75. If you don't enroll in the spring, you're obviously not going to be in the plan, and you won't be charged it. And maybe you enroll in the payment plan again the next fall. You'll pay another $75 each time you enroll at each term. But it's a great way. It's a no-interest plan, and so it is the only cost to you is that $75 enrollment fee. And so we encourage you that if that's a way that you can cash flow this and make this work over the course of the term, then we encourage you to enroll in that payment plan. If you don't enroll in the payment plan, then payment is due the Monday following the first day of class, which I believe is August 31st. And we'll talk about a few dates here in just a minute. But the payment plan works pretty simple in that we break it up over the course of the term. If you enroll in the 5 installment plan, you make that first payment when you enroll along with $75. And then your next payment is due on September the 5th. And then again on October the 5th, and then November the 5th, and December the 5th. So you do the down payment, and then do 4 more installments after that, and you're done. If you enroll in the 4 installment plan, which a lot of our families do because they can enroll in mid to late July and then not have another payment due until October 5th. That's a long time to not have to make a payment. Obviously, the payments are a little bit larger because you're going from either 5 installments or to 4 installments, but it gives you a break. You make that payment in July or early August and don't have another one until October 5th. And then you pay your third one on November 5th and then your final one on December 5th. And in the spring, we'll do it again. In the spring, currently, we just have a 4 installment plan. So it'll work just like the one in the fall, where you can enroll in January and then you'll make 3 more payments after you've made that initial down payment and enrollment fee payment early on. So that's the payment plan. You can go to our website and get all the details there. But for the most part, that's what I just explained is what you'll find there. The One Stop also works with you on 529 and other third-party payments. So if you've got a 529 plan or if you've got some other third-party payment, you need to let your advisor know in the One Stop so then they can be in touch with the folks behind the scenes in processing, and we can get everybody connected. So say you're coming from Florida and you've got some kind of 529 plan that's based out of the state of Florida. We need to know where you're coming from and what that amount looks like and who it's coming from. And then you're also going to need to let the folks know whether that's a state-run plan, like the folks in Tallahassee, or if it's some kind of private plan. You know, maybe it's Merrill Lynch or some other financial group. You need to let them know your student's coming to Samford. So that can be done throughout the summer. And we'll be posting what our due dates are. I've already mentioned that the due date really is August 31st. But we'll be posting all those things on our website here before too long. So if your financial institution needs that information, we'll be posting that on the One Stop website before too long. But in the meantime, you need to be in touch with your advisor, and so they can help you connect all the dots. Again, VA and other service-related payments, David's going to be your go-to person there, and he'll help you with starting with new paperwork so that we know exactly whether you're qualifying for Yellow Ribbon or some other type of program. You want to be in touch with David, and he wants to be able to give you the paperwork that we need to get the ball rolling there. And then you can begin to work with the VA office that you're tied to as well to make sure that they know that you are sending a student to Samford. Any outside scholarships we want to know about. We don't reduce any kind of Samford aid based off of an outside scholarship. There may be a change in a student loan because of that, but we need to know about your outside scholarships as soon as possible. There is a form out on our website that you can grab that allows you to indicate who the scholarship is for, how much it is, and where it's coming from. That way then we can be aware of it and we can make any adjustments that we need to make to federal loans or things like that. That way we're all set before you arrive in the fall. And if they're sending us a check directly from that foundation or from that company or from that church, that we could be expecting it. And when it does get here, we'll be able to find that form that you've already submitted and know that this check belongs to you. So be aware of that. The office also does loan counseling. I've mentioned student loans. I'll mention it here at the very end as well. but our counselors can help your students and help you understand your different options. And so there are different options, whether it's federal or private, whether it's a student loan or a parent loan. Let our folks walk you through. If you've got questions about how those work, what the interest rates look like, what repayment looks like, all those things, let our folks help you. Don't just sit back and not have the answers. Call them, email them, let them know your questions, and they'll be glad to assist you with making sense of all the different loan options that are available. And then finally, our folks will also walk with you on some financial literacy and helping your student understand that, okay, if I take out this amount of loan early on and then I've got to do that the next year and the next year and the next year, what does that look like? What does my repayment look like? How does that look like in comparison to what my expected outcomes are related to income when your student graduates for their specific field? Let us help you walk through some questions and help you get answers to things that are related to financial literacy. They'll be glad to do that. All right, so a couple of strategies, and on the screen you can see here that here's a strategy of where a family has been preparing for a long time and they are ready to be able to use their gift aid. Now gift aid, if you don't know what gift aid is, that's just scholarships and grants, things that don't have to be either worked for or repaid, so it's not loans and it's not work study. So it's a scholarship or a grant. So let's assume your student has a fall cost of $22,729 and they've got $10,000 in total scholarships and grants from all sources. Well, the net of that is $12,729, and if you've got savings in place or you've got a 529 plan or something like that you're going to utilize, then we encourage you to go ahead and send that in once you see the bill produced in August. And then have your bill paid in full and be done for the fall. And then if that's going to be the scenario for you in the spring, then do that again in January and we'll be all good there. That we know that's not always the case for a lot of our families. And so here's an option as to how that might play out with a payment plan. So this student, again, has the same charges, has the same gift aid, had the same net balance, but they've got savings of $8,729 that they can apply towards the fall term. That leaves an amount due of $4,000. And, it's July 17th or maybe it's August 1st and you decide, we're going to sign up for the payment plan. We can make that $4,000 work if we can spread that out over the course of the next several months. So here's how that plan works. You've got $4,000 to pay. As I described a few minutes ago, the down payment would be $1,000 plus the $75 enrollment fee. And you'd pay that in either July or August when you're enrolling. And then you would have a payment due. This is the 4 installment plan, so you'd have a payment due on October the 5th, November the 5th, and December the 5th. Now, if there's any changes to the student's account during that time, say they wind up getting some unknown outside scholarship, then those dollar amounts will adjust accordingly by the month. And so be prepared for that. Now, if they also pick up some charges, maybe they have a hard time understanding where they're supposed to park and they get a bunch of parking fines, or they get some other fine of some sort here, or a fee that's added because they've added a class that was different from what they were signed up for early on. Maybe they picked up a lab that has a lab fee. If that gets added into the student account, then the payments will also go up based off of that amount, and they will be spread out over the course of each of those months. All right. So here's another scenario. Here's one where they've got gift aid. The student or the parent is taking out a loan, they've got some outside aid, and they are going to do a payment plan. So let's assume all the same factors there, the same cost, same aid, but then they've got some outside scholarships and they've got a loan, and maybe they've got $3,500 left over to pay. Then you could split that up over 4 payments or 5 payments. Payment plan really is very easy to use. We typically have about 1,200 students out of the 5,700 total students, undergrad and grad, use the payment plan each fall, and typically around 1,100 use it in the spring. And so we encourage you to look at that as an option for you. We know that a lot of you have been in a private school situation, and so you're used to making payments on a monthly basis, and that's one reason why we started this several years ago. But we also are aware of many of you have been not paying for private school. You've been in a public school situation, and so having to pay for college all at once is a big change. And so this is a way you can kind of ease into it. So we encourage you to utilize the payment plan. A couple other financial strategies that you may or may not be aware of or may not have thought of. Our students can work on campus or off campus. Whether they filed a FAFSA or not, they can still work on campus. A number of our students work on campus through the federal work-study program, and that's done through a student having filed the FAFSA and having unmet need, and we offer them work-study. They can work in offices, they can work in rec sports, they can work for professors, they can work for staff, they can work in the library, work in labs, they can do a lot of different things. And likewise, we have a program for students who haven't filed a FAFSA or who may not be eligible for federal work study through the FAFSA. And they too can work right alongside our federal work study students. The only difference is our federal students are getting paid with federal dollars and the other students are being paid directly out of Samford's budget. And so we encourage your students to begin in early August looking at the website. Go to the One Stop website, click on Student Employment link, and you'll be taken to the student employment webpage, and your student can then begin to look and see what jobs are available. They may want to make contact with the people who have listed those jobs. Their names, their email addresses, and phone numbers will be there. They may want to set up an interview either prior to coming to campus or once they get to campus, setting it up so they're in that first week of class, they can go in and have an interview and get a job for the semester. So we encourage students to do that. That's a way to help offset costs. Maybe it's a way that you as a parent say, you know what, we're paying for tuition fees, room and board. If you want to, have money to go out with your friends on the weekends or go out to eat and go to the movies, go to concerts, whatever, you're going to need to get a job. This is a good way they can get a job right here on campus. And it's a good way they get a job that is really attuned to their schedules as a student, and they maybe could go to class from 8 to 10 on a Monday and then come in and work for a couple hours and then go to lunch and then go on to class in the afternoon. And then on Tuesday they've got no classes in the morning. They can come in and work for a few hours in the morning and then go to class in the afternoon. You really can't get that if you're working at some other entity off campus. And so we encourage you to have your students look at a work-study job, whether it be federal or not on campus. And then we also have some federal jobs that are off campus. So some students can work, if they have federal work-study, they can work in some nonprofit agencies around town. And they can get some great experience in getting out and meeting new folks away from Samford, but are connected to Samford. But they can get some work experience off campus as well if you have the federal work-study option. A couple other things there. A Federal Parent Plus loan is a loan that if you file a FAFSA, it is a credit-based loan, unlike the Stafford loans that students are eligible for. It is a credit-based loan, and so you may want to look into that if after you've seen everything, you've seen the tuition, the fees, room and board, and you've seen what your net cost is after gift aid, maybe even after you've applied for a student aid, and you've got still some remaining and you're not prepared to make cash payments either right up front or through the payment plan, a Parent Plus loan may be an option for you. Check with the advisors to know the specifics about that. Private education loans are very similar. You don't have to have a FAFSA in place. They are credit-based, and typically it's in the student's name, but they need to have a cosigner, which is usually mom, dad, or aunt, or uncle, grandparent, somebody that's a close family relative or close family friend will help them with that. So again, ask your advisor about that. And then a number of our families use a home refinancing, home equity lines of credit, things like that to help cover their costs. And then a number of our families, both the student and the parents, we used to call them second jobs. I guess now they're called side hustles, whether that's driving for Uber or shopping for any of those entities that you can have go and shop for at the grocery store or whatever. Students make all kinds of money doing things, preparing, doing digital work online and things like that. There are lots of ways that people can certainly make money to offset the cost of sending a kid to college. I know when I was going off to school, my mom picked up a second job, as well as my mother-in-law did the same thing as well, just to help make ends meet. So just know that at Samford, a lot of folks are doing a lot of different things to make this work. And the folks in the One Stop are here to help you make sense of all that. And that'll do it for us today. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the admissions folks, and y'all have a great rest of your day.